Right, welcome today to All About Animals Radio, a volunteer-based global radio station. I'm very happy to welcome Nicola O'Brien today. Welcome, Nicola.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Right, Nicola's from Asia for Animals, SMAC Coalition, and I will let Nicola explain the full extent of that in a minute, because it's huge. I can't quite grasp how big this organisation has a reach. It is all across Asia, based around the world, and it just does a huge amount, including, as we've all just heard on the news, the very incredible undercover operation that has rescued a lot of monkeys from the torturous videos that we've all seen on YouTube and the BBC. Well, quite incredibly, really. I couldn't believe what I was reading yesterday when I read what they had done. And obviously, you know an awful lot about it. So if you would like to explain, your organisation and how, you got how it all ties in with the monkeys, and then we'll go on from there. How about that?
Yes, it sounds like a good plan. There is a lot, so but hopefully it's all really interesting things for your listeners. So Asia for Animals has existed for many years, and it started as a small network of organizations based in Asia, and the idea was to bring people together who are working to protect animals across Asia. It started by holding a conference every other year in a different location in Asia, and it's grown really. As you can see, we have hundreds of member organizations in our network, and they can sign up for free. And the main goal is that they have to be contributing, of course, some way to helping animals. And within that network, we have a series of what we call working groups. And these are the groups that focus on key areas of animal protection. So this brings those organizations that are working specifically on a certain area together. And the idea, of course, is for those organizations to share information, to share experience, to help smaller organizations gain skills, all of those benefits of groups coming together, but also potentially running joint projects, joint appeals, and using that strength of these organizations and their supporters to advance animal protection. So one of those working groups is the Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition, which is the group I head up. And we are dedicated to focusing on content online, on social media, that shows animals being abused. And it's quite a niche issue, really. And a lot of people haven't heard of it, or they may have come across an occasional video, but they don't really know much about the scope of this and the horrors that can occur. And so a lot of our organizations in the Asia for Animal network were receiving complaints from the public saying, I've seen this awful video. They themselves were coming across it in their work. So Asia for Animals created the Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition. So we have 19 member organizations. They're all on our website. I won't list them all now.
There are an awful lot.
Yes, and they are based in lots of different places across the world. And all of these organizations have some interest or are actively working on this issue. So, of course, it's a global problem. It's also, not only is it global, but it's sort of like in the ether because it's all happening online. Obviously, the acts are happening offline, but the main place this content is shared. And we'll get into a lot of the kind of incentives for it being online soon. All of that is online, and there's questions around jurisdiction. If a piece of content is made in one country but is viewed in another, what legal action can be taken? Social media platforms taking responsibility or not for providing a platform and for animal cruelty and not removing it. So it's a big issue, and the only way we're going to do anything about it is by bringing organizations together and, of course, the public, who are the ones using social media and coming across these videos on a regular basis. Unfortunately, you're more likely to see this if you're actually an animal lover or an animal activist, because the platforms know you like animal content. So it may end up in front of you. And so hopefully we can give you the tools that you need to know what to do when you do find that. So yeah, that's a lot there. But in terms of the BBC documentary, so this came out 2 days ago. What day is it? No, yesterday, I think. It is a fantastic expose on the online world around those that want to watch horrific torture of macaque monkeys in this instance, and those who are behind facilitating this, those who are selling this content, those who are having this content created for people at their request. It's really dark. It's something that we've known about for quite a long time. And two of the key organisations that contributed to the BBC documentary were Action for Primates and Lady Freethinker, and they are members of SMAC, and they have a particular interest in primates, so they've been tracking these potential perpetrators for a long time, and we at SMAC have also been logging these groups, these pages that are used by these communities to share this content. One of the things in the documentary was that they actually did manage to track down and have some people arrested, which is absolutely fantastic, because that is very difficult to do. You know, we support some organizations who are in the countries where this content's being made, and you know, they're an animal organization, they're rescuing wildlife all the time, they're trying to get evidence. Often social media companies won't share details that they need to share with law enforcement agencies to make prosecutions. So it was great to see that happen. And I think what's also really important from this issue is that it's shown again how global it is, because we can easily point the finger at the person that's there carrying out the act towards the animal and filming it. But there's these people, you know, there was someone in Scotland who's been arrested. There's been some people in the US. I suspect that they are involved in organising this content being created. So they're almost like a broker between those that can create because they're in the country where these animals are easy to access. And they're, you know, then someone sat in their home in the UK or the US and are pushing this out to people who will pay for it.
So you're saying this is an online content, and literally the buyers of the content, there, you know, no country is not guilty really. There is content going all over the world, whoever wants to buy it.
Yeah,
including the UK. And I'm sure everybody, including myself, you know, we've all signed petitions. We've all, you know, asked social media platforms to stop doing it. We've all seen what they have done to those poor baby monkeys. It is incredible what came out in the news yesterday, you know, and what your members have done. Yeah, I mean, is there any more you can tell us about that?
Yes, so I mean, obviously a lot of the investigation into the perpetrators is ongoing, but I think that the thing that we find at SMAC in the wider work that we do is that it's awful, it's horrific, it's a huge problem, but it's only one part of the picture, because we find most of the data that we collect, so we collect links showing animal cruelty online, and it ranges from use of animals, interactions of animals that might seem benign, more benign, might not seem problematic, all the way up to this extreme torture. And most of the videos that we find are actually primates, and they're actually macaques. So they are being abused in this way. But there's also sort of less harsh ways that they're being abused that might not be obvious, but it's all part of the same.
Is it world. The same network? The same, as you said, the same world?
Potentially, yes, potentially. And
what would be an example of a lesser?
Yes. So other forms of abuse is what these animals experience, and a lot of the time you will see that these are baby monkeys. So they've been either taken from the wild, which often means the mothers have been killed so they can remove the young from them, or they've been bred in captivity and again taken off the parents and made to bond with a human. And what's really tragic about all these videos is often you see these young monkeys looking at the people that are abusing them as though they are their caregivers, because they're desperate for that interaction and that, you know, because they're young and they're also social animals, and that's very normal for them.
It's like a child being
So
hurt by their parents, isn't it? You know, it's why
exactly.
they still want the parents' love, don't they?
Yeah, it's really tragic. But we see other forms of abuse. So these baby monkeys may be being kept as a pet, and they're being portrayed as, oh, I love my monkey, you know, whatever the monkey's name might be. But in the video, and the way they're keeping these monkeys is in isolation. So it'll be one baby monkey. They're often keeping them in very, very small, barren cages. They're dressing them in human clothing. They may be disciplining them, but the way that it's presented, even though it might be physically hitting them, the way that it's presented as though, oh, like a naughty baby that needs disciplining. In reality, these animals are going mad. They shouldn't be in these captive situations.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be wearing clothing. That is completely against them, their nature. I've seen videos where they're actively trying to pull the clothes off because, of course, why? It's not natural for them. It's not them. They're being kept in people's homes, and some of these communities do share these kind of less graphic videos, but the joke to them, or the pleasure of watching it to them, is that they know that these baby monkeys are in distress, and they know that they can keep abusing them because they're going to keep coming back to them as their caregivers. And it's these types of videos that, unfortunately, well-meaning people might watch and not necessarily see that they're bad, because there's so many channels out there showing monkeys dressed in clothing. There's so many where they're almost used as actors. So they might play a role where they're riding a bike and they're going to the shops and they're buying food, and they might interact with the puppy in the home. And they're very, very staged. And it, you know, I guess people watch it and think it looks cute and the animals are complying with what's happening. But it's very problematic. The psychological impact on those animals of being put in,
it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
It's effectively like a circus, which most of us would not be okay with. But because people maybe don't know, and there are lots of places in the world where you can have primates as pets, including still in the UK, you know, it is one of the big concerns with these videos is that it's just further normalizing this idea that we can have wild animals as pets and it's fine, and just by providing them with things like food and water and toys is going to be enough, when it really, really is not.
It always seems to be the endless argument, doesn't it, that, well, if an animal, it doesn't have to go and get itself food and water, then it should be grateful.
Yes.
And I mean, how many times do we hear this, you know, with the zoo captive? Oh, yeah. You know, the elephant doesn't need to go and search for 40 miles today because we've got food and water here, so we'll get it to paint a picture. Yes, I mean, it's the same old nonsense, isn't it, really?
It is. It really is. But then we see that this then trickles down into well-meaning people who might have a monkey that they've bought online, or even in a pet shop, depending where you're based, or and not even a monkey, but other wild animals. And they are well-meaning and they do love these animals, but they've got a very, very wrong impression of what it means to care for these individuals. And when we're talking about primates and many species of wild animal, they should not be pets. We can't meet their needs in a domestic environment.
No, not at all. And also the love thing, that's a particular irritation of me, that seems to be the minute someone says, oh, I love, I don't know, Barney the monkey or Peggy the elephant, it's like a green card to do what you want to the poor animal. You know, what's love to any animal, really? I mean, your dog might love you, you know, your cat might look at you like, where's my food? But they're not domesticated, are they? They're just not domesticated. Right, so the wild animals, when people have got them in cages or, you know, unsuitable conditions, now your members are huge. I mean, you've got Animals Asia, you've got Born Free, you know, just by looking at the picture on your website, you know, a pig, a cow, you know, you've got Marine Life, you've got cats, you've got everything. So as you said, your members do cover pretty much life on Earth, don't they? They do an awful lot of stuff. And one thing that, you know, people wonder a lot about is, you know, when we see, particularly, I'd say as an example, a petition. So say, for instance, you know, we want to, save an elephant from a horrible zoo or something, and we're struggling to get like 10,000 signatures or something. And quite often we look and we think, well, why can't the charities and the animal places all work together? And if we say, look, guys, we need 1 million signatures, to raise a point here, we always kind of wonder, well, why don't people support each other? Now, you've got a coalition, so obviously no one's going to agree all the time. Some people are going to be pro cap, some people are going to be not, some people are going to be in the middle. But do they help each other out?
Yes, I mean, being in our working groups and being in the network, exactly like you say, we're really open. We want people to come, organizations to join, even if we don't all have the same position on things. But what we do find is the places where we do have the same position, or we can support each other's work. So in our working group, the Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition, we have lots of different organizations. Some of them are completely anti-captivity, others aren't, but we all have the same stance around this issue. And so we, for example, write educational reports where we use our research to look at different forms of animal cruelty online and highlight that to the public. So all of those organizations will contribute using their expertise around, we're writing one about primates at the moment, macaques actually, and we have a lot of organizations in our membership that have different experience with that, so we can come together on those things. We also recently, in the UK, there's this online safety bill that's going through the parliamentary process at the moment, and this is designed to target disturbing content or potentially damaging content on social media for vulnerable people and young people, and put onus on the platform to do something about it. So we and many of our member organizations and others have been calling for animal cruelty content to be included, because at the moment it isn't. And that's, in light of this documentary as well, it seems like that's a huge oversight. So we've worked together on that, and we've got different organizations that have never worked together, but we bring them together, and we've all written to the relevant ministers. We've all done an online campaign together where each organization was asking their followers to contact this certain MP. So it is challenging, because we're talking about lots of different organizations who all have their own communications plan and their own campaign strategies. But our job, and what I really, really like about Asia for Animals, is that we bring together those organizations when we know that they're all trying to do the same thing. We don't want them to just be repeating work, and we want them to use the platforms that we all have to advance one objective, if possible, to the benefit of a campaign like this online safety bill as an example. So it does happen. It's not always easy, but I completely agree with you. That is what should be happening, because it makes any campaign stronger to have.
It does. It really would. It's really frustrating for the people that want to support everybody. We want to support Animals Asia and Born Free, and everybody on the list, and we're signing everybody's petitions. Sometimes I might sign like 5 in a day.
Yeah.
And you think, and then it says, got to 20,000 people or whatever it is. And there's lots of people like me that have got the time to do the signatures and maybe send a few emails. And then it's so, obviously we're all heartbroken at seeing the animal concerned, or the animals concerned. Yeah. And we just wish that, it'd be nice to even know that the big organizations, and if we use Animals Asia as an example, because everybody knows about the moon bears. I mean, I listened to an interview with them once, and they started, I think, 2 people with a vision in a flat in Hong Kong or somewhere, and it is absolutely tremendous what they have achieved. And again, it's always like thinking, well, if you did all that and saved all those bears, then us little activists are sitting there scratching our heads thinking, why can't we get this elephant out of jail? It's that kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's really enlightening to see your organization, and and I hope people have a really good look at the website, and asiaforanimals.com and really just, you know, have a really good hunt around it and a good look around it, because what you cover is, you know, all the working groups, and then all the, I can't get over all the graphs and the different groups you do. I mean, it is, it literally goes all over the place. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
so
it's
we
like looking
focus
at a UN thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I know, and our team, in terms of our kind of employed staff like myself, I think there's now, I'm going to get this completely wrong because it's 13, 14 of us or something, and it has grown a lot in the last year because we've become an independent organization. You know, we've grown, we've got our name out there. The Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition in particular is getting a lot of attention because this issue is becoming more and more visual and people are concerned about it. And it's just, it's brilliant. And I've been in the organisation just over a year, and after having previously worked in animal rights elsewhere, and I'm really impressed by how much gets done and how effective it is at bringing organisations together, because sometimes you can be in a network with other organisations and not a lot happens beyond when you have those meetings, when you have those chats. And I guess what our roles is as the coordinators is to make sure that work happens after it, because everyone's so busy in their organisations doing their own things. You know, I completely understand it. I've been there myself. So it helps a lot to have someone as a coordinator to say, right, guys, we're going to email you all. This is what we're doing. Can you all contribute here? What can you offer? I think that's the strength of it. So we work on farmed animal issues, dog and cat issues, social media animal cruelty, sanctuaries and rescue centres is one of our new groups, ethical elephant tourism. There's a lot. They're all on the website.
So when you talk about the new group, the sanctuaries and everything, how do you get on with the older generation of some conservationists who say there's not enough sanctuaries, or they're well established in getting donations from zoos that their own buddies approve, and it's a really fine line because their popularity is almost something that sustainable tourism and everything else goes against. So, you know, you're trying to present a new ethical picture and say, look, actually that elephant can come out of that zoo. There is sustainable tourism, and Gentle Giants do a lovely program, don't they, where they do the stay at home for elephants, and you know, it's a win-win for the locals and for the elephants and everything else. But then you've got the kind of, it seems there's levels of it all. You've got the sort of hierarchy earning the millions, then you've got the next group down that are very popular and have done extremely well, and then you've got the new coming up, you know, the climate friendly stuff. You want to promote more sustainable tourism, as you say, with you know, your new group is sanctuaries. How do you kind of build that up?
So I don't oversee the sanctuaries and rescue centres working group, but from it's very early days. The aim is to bring together all the different kinds of people that you've described, to be able to have a supportive way of those organizations coming together again, opening that so it's not so in silo, sharing the expertise, the tools, the skills, maybe even some of the funding to help smaller sanctuaries and rescue centres, and to look at what minimum welfare standards might there be. You know, there's lots of aspirations here. It is so challenging for reasons that you've just said. There are a lot of differences in opinion, but we try to stay as open to that as possible, because we want to have everyone in the room working together, and then can have conversations like this if necessary to give other perspectives. And I think that's another brilliant thing, is that organizations independently are obviously, they've got their goals, they've got their position on things. Being in the coalition opens them up to working with others that might have different positions on them, and I think everyone can learn from that to make things, you know, better for animals. Definitely.
Yeah, it is a real frustration of you know, zoos that have got the PR down to, you know, a fine art, saying this animal's an ambassador, you know, like it wants a label. And
Absolutely.
And let's have all the donations that will go to this charity that is going to release maybe 1 or 2 animals into the wild. And that has always been the problem, because it's almost like, well, if we're going to change tact, it seems to me that it would be easy for a conservationist to turn and say, right, well, this is how we used to do it. We know we can do it better now. Let's do it better. But that doesn't tend to get done. They're like, no, we can't do it that way. We've always done it this way. And look, you know, that organisation has now released 1 because of all the ambassadors. And there's always that trickiness that it's that stuck in the mud thing. And from looking at your website, you do manage to break down those barriers, which I think is absolutely incredible, you know, and hopefully you'll break down even more.
And one really interesting take on the conservation issue, as there's many issues there, is around compassionate conservation, which is about having compassion and considering the individual animals involved. So, you know, often some animals may be culled in an environment because they say, well, that helps this species return or helps protect the environment here or whatever. And whereas compassionate conservation is about considering that these are all alive beings and they live in those areas, or, you know, whatever it might be in that situation. And that's something that I know in our team we talk about, and it's something that we would obviously love to see. And so I think it is starting to creep in. But like you say, this, you know, conservation has been a certain template for a long time. So,
and it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah. So, you know, again, bringing people together to hear alternatives and to hear about projects that are working, that maybe have a more modern and ethical approach. It's a lot. It's, you know, we're not saying you're achieving all of this. It's a big challenges of things that have been like this for a long time, and there is lots of differences of opinion. So, but yeah, I think
you've got to where you've got to, and that's what I find amazing. You've got to where you've got to with all those different opinions. I mean, you know, I sort of encourage anybody to look at your website and see the names of all the organisations, you know, that you've got on there. The fact that you've got you've got a round table with that many people on it is absolutely phenomenal going. It really is. And you know, that's definitely the sustainable, climate friendly way to be doing all this, and to, you know, end this slightly ridiculous label of an ambassador for any wild animal.
Yeah, I mean, we have to come together because, you know, like you've just mentioned there, like climate friendly, there's animal welfare, there's doing conservation or animal protection in a way that isn't disruptive to the local people that live in those places, as involving local people in these initiatives. And, you know, there's so many issues to address, and we can't do that as individual organizations. You know, there's strength in coming together, and that involves listening and sharing ideas and accepting some differences. You know, that's important as well. So that's the mission. And yeah, we have achieved some really great stuff, and it is an exciting time at the moment in seeing more organizations join us as well.
Is it your organization? To me, seems to be more that you're there for the organizations, the organization for the organizations. So that's probably why a lot of people probably haven't heard of you.
Yes, correct.
And that, I assume, is okay for you, because you need to be on just doing your stuff, don't you? You need to be doing it nice and peacefully. And it's almost better, I think, if the public support the organizations that you support. It's an umbrella system, isn't it? Or is there a way that you want public support?
Well, as we grow, that is becoming more of a consideration. I mean, for example, you're completely right that we were set up to support other organizations, to bring them together, to help them do what they do for animals. So that's the point of it. But we are, in supporting that, there are obviously things that are being done and delivered that are public facing. So again, coming back to my own working group, the Social Media Animal Cruelty Coalition, we are doing a lot of public awareness now, and we do that ourselves, as well as doing joint public awareness and sharing resources with our members to do it as well. So we are starting to bring people to us as an organization, which is new and it's interesting. But because with SMAC we have the relationships with the platforms, so we meet with some of the major social media platforms on behalf of our members, which is a benefit because the platforms ideally want to talk to one or two people and not have to meet with all these animal organizations separately. And we can go there with the strength of, we've got all these behind us and all of their supporters behind us. And so a crucial part of that campaigning and that raising awareness is telling people what they should do when they find animal cruelty content. So we are starting to reach out more to the public, and our farmed animal working group, of course, is doing public awareness as well, and they're doing an event this weekend in Vietnam around farmed animal issues. So yeah, we are starting to become a bit more public facing in that regard, but the core of our work is to support organizations.
It will be nice, I have to say, to see, even if it's the odd social media post from you. I mean, it's weird actually, because 2 days ago there's me, like other people, tweeting a social media platform because there was yet another horrible baby monkey picture. And everybody's so frustrated, and we don't understand why the social media platforms don't just take these things down. And then weirdly enough, the next day you see the BBC News, with, as you say, what your members and everybody has been up to. So that was kind of, really gratefully received news. So
I mean, we're so delighted because we have gone to press before around animal cruelty content online, but I think it's needed something big like this for people to realise. I just hope that from that we can widen the conversation out from not just this extreme treatment of animals, but all the other forms of animal cruelty that we document on a regular basis. So
I don't know why, like pigs in gas chambers in the UK, I still don't understand how that's not on the news, and other things that go on. I mean, it's so extreme what they're doing, and yet it's weird. They can almost show 1 million poor people suffering in a drought and desert somewhere, and kids being taken to hospital in an awful state, but they can't show a farm animal. If you can show the child, who should be above the animal, why can't you show the animal? It's just it's this odd system, isn't it? I mean, as you say, things are, when I say improving, it means we're just getting to grips with what is going on, but we need to. So when an organisation such as yourself can post something and say that this is what we're doing, or this, it's not falling on deaf ears. I think that's the thing that's been so frustrating about the monkey thing, is that it's like this, you can tweet the social media people and it's just like, why aren't they listening? It's so extreme what's going on. But it's nice to know, and it's very grateful to know that they are actually having discussions, and as you say, they can't reply to 50,000 people that are tweeting or anything else. It'd be a non-stop barrage, wouldn't it? But it is really good to know they're actually talking to you.
Yes, it is really frustrating because we love to give more calls to action to the public around what they can do, but at the moment, in terms of just tweeting a platform, it's probably not going to have the impact that we want, because if anyone's tried to sort out a problem with their own social media account, it's so hard to talk to a real person in these companies. So we're really grateful as well that we can have these conversations, and we try to have a positive relationship with them around, we're here to do whatever you need to improve your moderation and your policies around animal cruelty content. Some of the platforms have been really, really good and really engaging, and we hope we've got some great updates coming out soon. And there's a couple of updates on our website already around some changes on TikTok, for example. But monkey torture, we've actually been talking to Meta about this, who own Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, about these videos appearing on Facebook, which was mentioned in the documentary as well, since the end of last year. And they have removed links that we've sent them, but we've been really frustrated because they haven't come to us with a plan of how they're going to tackle this proactively, to stop these accounts, to stop these people. And it is a really frustrating thing to have to do, to sit and wait. But you know, in the meantime, we're doing all these other things with, like, we're releasing this report in September about macaque cruelty online. We have, you know, our members doing actions like this leading to the documentary, and we are also trying to give the public something to do. The problem is, like I say, there's maybe not a satisfying action to take, but what we ask people to do, we have 5 steps. So the first one is to be aware. So listening to this podcast, watching the BBC documentary, and also going on our website, because we have a lot more on there. We have little videos called Ask Yourself that look at some of the other common themes of cruelty, the ones that might be harder to identify. They're not graphic, they're very short. They just give some tips to just help people think differently. And then we ask people not to watch, engage, or comment. Don't share, don't engage, because even though we really want to write a comment that says this is animal cruelty, this is really bad, unfortunately, the algorithm is just looking for popular content. So no matter how you're engaging, it sees that there's a lot of engagement. And so that's going to boost that content to more people.
Oh, I never knew that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And that's generally everyone's response, because again, you know, the social media platforms aren't telling you this openly, but that is how it works. So, you know, you could be commenting something great for animals, but it could be inadvertently boosting that content. And if that content creator has got advertising on their videos, because on platforms like YouTube, if you have popular content, you're eligible for monetization through adverts. So you're making money off the advert.
No, so people are actually making the money by sharing.
Yes. And this tends to be on maybe more of the like lesser obvious cruel forms of cruelty, but there's a really, I mean, it's quite clever, even though it's obviously horrible, theme of cruelty called what we call fake rescue, which is where the content creators, they know that animal rescue videos are popular. So what they're doing is staging situations where the animal's endangered, or is in danger, or is injured, or in need of rescue from drowning or something. And then they go in and film themselves rescuing the animal. And they might even claim to be a rescue or a sanctuary, and they might ask for donations. And sometimes it is hard to tell. And we, again, have tips on our website of how you can tell, normally looking at the whole account. Are there loads of these videos on the account? Are they a reputable organization? Do there stories about what happens to the animals afterwards? Sometimes they use the same animals. So, you know, there are ways that these platforms are making money. And so that's why we really want people to be aware and not engage with content. What they can do is report it to the platforms, which a lot of people say that they do that and they don't get the results that they want, which we really understand. And it is something we flag with the platforms as well. But we know that it's important anyway, because sometimes it takes multiple reports before that content's removed. And we also know that they do look at what kinds of content's being reported. So we want to show them that animal cruelty content, people care about this and they don't want it on the platform. We have some videos on our website of showing you exactly how to follow the steps to report on some of the major platforms, because they don't always make it easy and clear. So this is, you know, hopefully a takeaway from this.
That's very useful
podcast today. Yeah. And again, it's all on our website, and you can go to the asiaforanimals.com website, and then you can lead off to the SMAC website, or we have smaccoalition.com, which is like our little mini site all about social media, animal cruelty.
That's lovely. Thank you ever so much. We've covered so much today, and it's an absolute pleasure to have this conversation. It's the first time I've actually been lucky enough to speak to someone that's doing, you know, is getting organisations together. So thank you ever so much. I've learned a lot, you know, and I'll share it with my advocate buddies. And and yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, Nicola. Thank you ever so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it, and I hope people find it useful, and best of luck with all that you're doing as well.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.